In front of the entire school, I slammed the championship trophy from the national speech finals onto the principal's desk. Lu Chuan's face instantly turned as white as a sheet. 3 days ago, during the school team selection, he kicked me out in the name of "for your own good" and gave the main debater position to Bai Yu. Everyone thought I would be crushed and wouldn't even get into college, but they didn't know that after being abandoned by the school team, I had already received a direct invitation to a national-level competition. When Lu Chuan pushed open the debate club's door, I was organizing materials for next week's league, a thick stack of attack and defense drafts. I had stayed up 3 nights straight to finish them. Jiang Yao, he stood at the door, not coming in. I looked up at him. The sunlight streamed in from behind him, and I couldn't make out his expression. "What's wrong?" I put down my pen. Lu Chuan was silent for a few seconds before speaking. "You don't need to go to next week's inter-school league." My hand froze in midair. "What do you mean?" He finally walked in and slapped a form down in front of me. "This is the new list. Bai Yu is replacing you as the main debater. And you," he paused, "you'll be the 3rd debater." I looked down at the list. Main debater, Bai Yu. 1st debater, Lu Chuan. 2nd debater, Zhao Wenjie. 3rd debater, Jiang Yao. The 3rd debater in a debate team is almost just a filler. All the core arguments and key clashes are entirely shouldered by the main debater. The editor-in-chief draft I spent a month preparing was so lightly crossed out. "Why?" My voice was calm. Lu Chuan seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. He probably thought I would cry or make a scene. "You know Bai Yu's situation. She needs the extra points from this competition for her recommendation," he said. "You have good grades, so you don't need these." I looked at him. He didn't avoid my gaze, and even carried a hint of self-righteousness. "I've been preparing for a month," I said. "I know." There was a hint of impatience in his tone. "But Bai Yu needs this opportunity more." "Jiang Yao, aren't you the most reasonable person? Why make a fuss over such a small matter?" The door opened again. Bai Yu walked in, with just the right amount of apology on her face. "Sister Jiang Yao, I'm sorry, I just really needed this spot." She lowered her eyes, her voice soft and gentle. "You won't blame me, will you?" I watched her act and suddenly found it amusing. She needed this spot. Last month's school selection competition, she was eliminated in the 1st round. "Okay," I said. Lu Chuan was clearly taken aback. "You agreed? 3rd debate it is." I stood up and gathered the materials on the table. "After all, you're the one calling the shots." A faint smile tugged at the corner of Bai Yu's lips before quickly fading. "Sister Jiang Yao is truly magnanimous," she said softly. "Then I'll go prepare the main debate script. I'll leave next week's competition in everyone's hands." She turned and walked away, brushing her fingers lightly against Lu Chuan's sleeve as she passed him. Lu Chuan did not pull away. I watched this scene and continued packing my things. The door of the debate club closed behind me. In the hallway, Lin Juyang was leaning against the wall, waiting for me. "How was it?" he asked. "Did you hear all that?" "The soundproofing isn't great," he shrugged. Lu Chuan really has no shame. I didn't say anything and kept walking. "Jiang Yao," he caught up. "Are you just going to let it go?" "What else? Go find the counselor. This was supposed to be your responsibility in the first place." I stopped walking and turned to look at him. "Juyang, how many years have you known me?" 3 years. "When have I ever shed tears in front of others?" He was stunned. "So don't worry about me at a time like this." I continued walking. "I know what I'm doing." Lin Juyang followed behind, remaining silent for a long time. "What exactly do you plan to do?" He finally spoke again. "What are you thinking about?" I chuckled. "Getting ready for the competition." "What competition?" "A competition that has nothing to do with me." He looked completely bewildered. I didn't explain. Back in the dormitory, I turned on my computer and logged into a website. "National College Student Speech Final. The registration deadline is next month. I have been preparing for 3 months. This competition has been my fallback from the very beginning, or rather, it was my trump card." My phone rang. A text from Lu Chuan. "Jiang Yao, don't overthink it. I'll make it up to you next semester." I stared at that line of text and pressed the delete key. Then I opened another folder, which contained all the speeches I had written over the past 3 months, 17 versions in total. I had memorized every single one of them inside out. I shut down the computer and lay down on the bed. The ceiling was white, very clean. I remembered the day a year ago when Lu Chuan invited me to join the debate club. Jiang Yao, your logical ability is the best I've ever seen. His eyes were bright. Join us, and we'll win the national championship together. I believed it then. Looking back now, what he needed was never my ability. What he needed was a position that could be replaced at any time, used to curry favor with those he wanted to please. Lin Jiang only found out the next day that I had signed up for the national speech finals. What? His eyes widened. The national finals, all by yourself? Yes. When did this happen? I started preparing 3 months ago. He stood frozen in place, unable to speak for a long time. So, you knew all along that Lu Chuan would kick you out? I didn't know. I took a sip of water, but I guessed he would do it. How did you guess? Bai Yu started frequently seeking him out to discuss debate topics last month. I said, every time after their discussions, the way Lu Chuan looked at me would change. Lin Zhiyang's expression was complicated. You clearly knew. Why didn't you tell me in advance? Tell you what, I set down my cup, that Lu Chuan might sacrifice me for Bai Yu, and then have you go argue with him about it. At least we can think of a way in advance. What way? I looked at him. Zhu Yang. Lu Chuan is the team leader. He has the right to decide who stays and who goes. Even if we go to the counselor, the result won't change. He fell silent. But you've been preparing the editor-in-chief draft for a whole month. So what? I stood up and walked to the window. The editor-in-chief can always rewrite the manuscript, but some people's true colors, if you don't let them show themselves, you'll never see them clearly. Lin Jiang walked over to me. What are you planning to do? Wait for now. What are you waiting for? Waiting for him and Bai Yu to reach the end of the road. The sunlight fell on my face. Warm, but my heart was cold. I know what's going to happen next. Bai Yu will participate in the inter-school competition as the main debater. Lu Chuan will give her extra coaching behind the scenes. She will use my attack and defense drafts, my case studies, and everything I've prepared for a month. Then, if she wins, the credit will be hers. If she loses, the blame will fall on the drafts I wrote. No matter how I calculate it, I lose. But I chose not to expose the truth because exposing it would, at most, embarrass Lu Chuan for a moment. What I want is to make him regret it completely. The night before the inter-school league match, Lu Chuan sent me a message. You don't need to come to tomorrow's match. Bai Yu said she can handle it on her own. I stared at the screen, a faint, bitter smile tugging at the corner of my mouth. No need to go. I don't even have the chance to be the third debater anymore. Lin Zhiyang's call came in immediately. Damn. He really won't let you go. Yeah, is he even human? His voice was filled with anger. He uses your draft and then kicks you out. Don't be mad, I said. How can you still be so calm? Because tomorrow, I have a match too. There was a second of silence on the other end of the line. What competition? The school selection for the National College Student Speech Finals. I said, if I win, I'll go to Beijing next week. Lin Jiang fell silent again. You had this planned all along, he said. Not a question, but a statement. It wasn't a plan. I opened my bag and took out the registration form. I just left myself a way out. What if Lu Chuan hadn't kicked you out? Then I wouldn't have entered this competition, I said. But if he did, I had to have somewhere to go. Lin Jiang took a deep breath on the other end of the phone. Jiang Yao, sometimes I really can't figure you out. You don't need to figure me out, I said. Just cheer me on tomorrow. Are you sure you don't need someone to accompany you? No need. Then I'll wait at the dorm for your good news. Okay. I hung up the phone and continued reading my speech draft 18th edition. I reorganized all the arguments, removed the flashy rhetoric, and kept only the most solid content. The title of the speech is undefined, very fitting. The school selection for the national speech finals was held in the school auditorium. Over 300 people sat in the audience. Most of them there just to watch the excitement. I stood backstage, peering through the gap in the curtain. There were more people than I had imagined. Nervous, a girl next to me asked. I turned to look at her. She was tall and thin, wearing glasses, with a name tag on her chest that read, Zhongwei, School of Foreign Languages. A little, I said. Me too, she smiled. If I can get a spot in this competition, the recommendation for admission will basically be secured. You're also here for the recommendation, not entirely. She adjusted her glasses. I just want to prove myself. I nodded and said nothing more. The host began calling out names. Next contestant, Jiang Yao, School of Law. I took a deep breath and walked onto the stage. The moment the spotlight hit my face, I couldn't see anything. The crowd of over 300 people turned into a blur of dark shadows. I walked up to the podium and stood still. Hello, everyone. My voice was steady. My name is Jiang Yao, from the School of Law. Today, I want to tell a story. 3 months ago, I was kicked out of the school debate team. A slight stir rippled through the audience. The reason is that someone else needs this position more than I do. The commotion grew even louder. Someone told me that this was for my own good, because I have good grades. I don't need these extra points, but another person does, so I should give them up. I paused for a moment. Today, I don't want to talk about right or wrong. I want to talk about what you should do when you are defined as the one who is not needed. I began to lay out my argument. The logic is clear, the pace is tight, every paragraph has been carefully refined. I spoke for 15 minutes without stumbling over a single word. When I finished, applause erupted from the audience, not the polite kind. They were genuinely clapping. As I walked off the stage, my palms were completely sweaty. Zhong Wei walked over, her eyes bright. Well said, thank you. Were you really kicked off the debate team? She asked. Yeah, then they really are blind. I laughed but didn't respond. Half an hour later, the results came out. First place, Jiang Yao. I secured a spot in the national finals. Lin Juyang called right away. Jiang Yao, first place. I knew you could do it. Stop shouting, I said. When are you going to Beijing? Next week. I'll go with you. No need. No, I have to go. His tone was firm. In case something happens to you over there, someone has to be there to help. I thought for a moment. All right. After hanging up the phone, I stood at the entrance of the auditorium. The sunlight was beautiful. The phone rang again. A message from Lu Chuan. I heard you went to a speech competition. Why didn't you tell me? I stared at that line of text and pressed the delete key. Then I opened another chat window and sent a message to my advisor. Professor, I need to take leave next week to go to Beijing for the national speech competition finals. The counselor's reply came quickly. Approved. Keep it up. I put away my phone and walked toward the dormitory. As I passed by the debate club, I stopped in my tracks. Bai Yu's voice came from inside. Lu Chuan, we're definitely going to win this league, right? Of course, Lu Chuan's voice. Have you memorized all the scripts I prepared for you? Memorized them, all memorized. That's good, he said. As long as you win this match, your guaranteed admission spot is secure. I stood at the door, listening to their conversation. Those scripts, I wrote them all, every single word, written through sleepless nights. Now, they have become Baiyu's weapons. I did not push the door open and go in. I just stood there for a while, then turned and left Beijing. Wait for me. On the day I arrived in Beijing, a light rain was falling. Lin Jiang helped me pull my suitcase while I held the umbrella. The finals are being held at this hotel. He looked up at the 5-star hotel in front of us. This is way too luxurious. National level events naturally come with high standards, I said. We walked into the lobby, and the front desk staff verified my identity information. Contestant Jiang Yao, your room is on the 12th floor. She handed me a room card. The finals start the day after tomorrow, and there's a contestant meet and greet tomorrow afternoon. Please be on time. Okay. In the elevator, Lin Jiang was still looking around. Are you nervous? He asked. Not at all. Liar, he said. Your palms are all sweaty. I hid my hands behind my back. A little, I admitted. Normal. He patted my shoulder. You've been preparing for so long. There's definitely no problem. I nodded, saying nothing. Actually, I wasn't nervous. I was just wondering what Lu Chuan is doing right now. Does he know that I've come to Beijing? Does he know that I've signed up for this competition? Probably not. In his eyes, I was just a third debater who had been kicked out, incapable of making any waves. The moment the room card swiped open the door, I shook all those thoughts out of my head. Stop thinking about it. The day after tomorrow's competition is what truly matters. The contestants' meet and greet was held in the hotel's conference hall. 20 contestants from across the country, along with their respective companions, filled the room to capacity. I found a corner to sit down and flipped through the competition handbook in my hand. The National College Student Speech Finals, held annually, require participants to be the top pick from their respective universities. In other words, every person here is a top contender from their respective schools. Hello, may I sit here? I looked up. It was a tall, slender boy with clean-cut features. Sure, I said. He sat down beside me and introduced himself. My name is Xu Ming Yuan, from Peking University. Jiang Yao, from Nancheng University. I know, he smiled. I watched the video of your campus selection competition. Video, your school uploaded the competition video online, he said. Your speech makes you the opponent I most want to defeat among these 20 people. I didn't know what to say, so I just smiled. Is it true that you were kicked out of the debate team? He suddenly asked. I was taken aback. News travels that fast? It was mentioned in the speech, he said. You said you were kicked off the debate team. Someone else needed that spot more than you did. Yes. Why? Because someone wanted to give their spot to someone else, I said briefly. Xu Mingyuan looked at me for a few seconds. So you came to this competition to prove yourself, something like that. Then you're sure to win, he said. People who are cornered are often the most terrifying. I looked at him, unsure how to respond at that moment. The host began to speak, interrupting our conversation. After the meet and greet ended, I returned to my room. Lin Juyang was watching TV. How is it? He asked. I got to know a few contestants, I said. Any impressive ones? They're all pretty impressive. I sat down on the edge of the bed. Peking University, Tsinghua, Fudan, Jiaotong, all top-tier schools. So, do you feel a lot of pressure? Not really, really. I looked at him. Juyang, do you know why I'm not nervous at all? Why? Because my opponent isn't from here. He looked completely bewildered. My opponent is Lu Chuan. I said, I'm not here to win the match. I'm here to make him realize that the person he kicked out is 100 times stronger than the one he kept. Lin Jiang opened his mouth but said nothing. After a long moment, he finally spoke. Sometimes you're really quite terrifying. I smiled but didn't respond. The day before the finals, I received a phone call. It was from an unfamiliar number. Hello, are you Jiang Yao? The voice on the other end belonged to a middle-aged man. I'm Teacher Chen from the National Speech Finals Organizing Committee. Hello, Teacher Chen. Here's the thing. We need to confirm your competition information, he said. Your instructor field is blank, and it needs to be filled in. I don't have an instructor, I said. We know that. He paused. But we need a contact person. In case something comes up during the competition, there has to be someone we can reach. I thought for a moment, then put down Lin Juyang. He's my friend. Alright. Also, what is your competition theme? Undefined. Okay, we'll arrange for you to go 7th. Thank you. I hung up the phone and continued reading my speech. This is the 19th edition. I have almost every word etched into my mind, but I know that when it's time to actually go on stage, I won't follow the script entirely. A speech. The script is just the skeleton. What truly moves people is the moment you stand on stage, your presence, your emotion, your charisma. The phone rang again. This time, it was a familiar number. Lu Chuan. I hesitated for a few seconds, but still answered. Jiang Yao. His voice sounded a bit tired. Where are you? Beijing. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line. Beijing. What are you doing in Beijing? Join the competition. What competition? His tone became urgent. Why didn't you tell me? Why should I tell you? We're friends, he said. If something's going on, you should let me know. Friends. I repeated the word. Lu Chuan, you kicked me out of the debate team just 3 days ago, and now you're calling me a friend. He fell silent again. Jiang Yao, I know that was my fault. His voice dropped, but I had no choice. You really needed that spot, so I was supposed to just give it up. I didn't say you should let her win, he said urgently. I just think that with your abilities, even without this competition, you could still get into a good school. But Yu is different. If she doesn't get the bonus points, her chances of being recommended for admission are completely gone. So what? So I hope you can understand. I held the phone, saying nothing. Jiang Yao, I understand, I said. I understand that you care more about Yu, I understand that you think my efforts don't matter. I understand that you see me as a backup option you can discard at any time. I didn't. Lu Chuan, don't explain, I interrupted him. Go focus on your competition. I need to prepare for mine too. Your competition? What competition? The national speech finals. The other end of the line fell completely silent after a long while. He finally spoke. National speech finals. Yes, you. When did you sign up? 3 months ago. Another long silence. Jiang Yao, why didn't you tell me earlier? What would be the point of telling you? I said, so you could stop me in advance. That's not what I meant. His voice dropped low. I just think we should. What should I do? He didn't say anything. Lu Chuan, stop calling me, I said, then hung up the phone. After that, I blocked his number. Lin Jiang came out of the restroom and paused for a moment when he saw my expression. Whose call was that? Lu Chuan. What did he say? Tell me to understand him. Lin Zhouyang's expression changed. This guy still has the nerve to say something like that. Don't bother with him. I put my phone aside. Tomorrow is what really matters. He looked at me, as if he wanted to say something but held back. Say what you want to say. Are you really not sad at all? I thought about it. Is it useful? He didn't speak again. On the day of the finals, the weather in Beijing was beautiful. Sunlight streamed in through the floor-to-ceiling windows, flooding the room with brightness. I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my clothes, a white shirt and black trousers. Very simple. Lin Zhouyang stood at the doorway, watching me. Are you sure you don't want to change? What should I change into? Something a bit more formal, he said. Look at the other contestants. They're all wearing suits and gowns. I'm going to give a speech, not walk a runway. I said, what I wear doesn't matter, what I say does. He sighed. All right, whatever makes you happy. We left the hotel and took a taxi to the competition venue. The venue for the National College Students' Speech Finals was set at Peking University's Centennial Memorial Hall. This is one of the most prestigious academic halls in the country. Just being able to compete here is an honor in itself. A crowd had already gathered at the entrance, contestants, companions, journalists, and spectators. I walked up to the registration desk and signed my name. A staff member handed me a number tag, number 7. Okay, I pinned my number tag and walked toward the backstage. Xu Mingyuan walked over from the other side. Jiang Yao, how are the preparations going? Not bad. And you, a bit nervous? He smiled, but seeing you makes me less nervous. Why? Because you need to win more than I do, he said. A person kicked off the debate team winning the national championship. That would be quite a sight. I looked at him, not knowing what to say. Good luck. He patted me on the shoulder. See you on stage. I nodded. In the backstage lounge, the 20 contestants were each seated. Some were silently rehearsing their scripts, some were taking deep breaths, and some were resting with their eyes closed. I found a corner to sit down and closed my eyes. In my mind, I went through every part of the speech. Opening, point 1, point 2, point 3, summary, conclusion. The rhythm, pauses, and emphasis of each part were all rehearsed in my mind. Contestants, please prepare, the staff member said as they pushed the door open. We start in 5 minutes. I opened my eyes and stood up. Lin Jiang stood at the entrance of the lounge and gave me a gesture of encouragement. I nodded at him. Then, I stepped onto the stage. The moment the spotlight hit my face, the audience seats below turned into a blur of shadows. I walked up to the podium and stood still. The microphone was positioned right at the height of my chin. Good evening, judges and audience. My voice echoed clearly through the hall. I'm contestant number 7, Jiang Yao, from Nancheng University. The topic I'd like to talk about today is undefined. I paused and swept my gaze across the audience. 5 people sat on the judges' panel, all with stern expressions. 3 months ago, I was kicked out of the school debate team. A slight stir rippled through the audience. The reason was that someone else needed that spot more than I did. Someone told me it was for my own good, because I had good grades. I didn't need those extra points, but someone else did, so I should give it up. I saw a few judges exchange glances. Standing here today, I don't want to talk about right or wrong. I want to talk about what you do when you're defined as the one who doesn't need it, when everyone thinks you're the one who doesn't matter. I began my argument in the first paragraph. I explained what it means to be defined. In the second paragraph, I discussed how people who are defined typically react: anger, argument, compromise, or giving up. In the third paragraph, I introduced a fourth option: proving the person who defined you wrong through action. Each paragraph is tightly paced with clear arguments. I spoke for 14 minutes without stumbling over a single word. When the last sentence landed, applause erupted from the audience. It wasn't the polite kind. It was applause from people who were genuinely moved. I saw a few judges nodding. I bowed and stepped off the stage. Lin Juyang was waiting for me backstage. He didn't say a word, just gave my shoulder a firm pat. I noticed his eyes were a little red. The award ceremony was scheduled for 2 hours after the finals ended. All the contestants returned to the hall, waiting for the results. I sat in the corner, looking out the window. Lin Juyang sat beside me, rubbing his hands the whole time. "Can you be quiet?" I said. "I'm nervous." He said. "Aren't you nervous?" "Not at all." "Liar." I smiled and didn't respond. Actually, I really wasn't nervous because no matter the outcome, I had already proven myself. Jiang Yao, who had been kicked out of the debate team, could still stand on the stage of the national finals. This fact is more important than any trophy. The host walked onto the stage. "Dear contestants and audience, after careful evaluation by the judges, we now announce the winners." Third prize winners: Liu Chang from Beijing Normal University, Li Ming from Wuhan University, and Zhong Qi from Sichuan University. Applause rang out. Second prize winners: Zhu Minute from Fudan University, Wang Lei from Tsinghua University, Xu Mingyuan from Peking University. Xu Mingyuan glanced in my direction and gave a wry smile. I nodded at him. First prize winner: Chen Yu from Zhejiang University. Applause rang out once again. Finally, the winner of the National College Student Speech Finals. The host paused for a moment. The hall was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. Southern City University, Jiang Yao. At that moment, I couldn't hear anything. All I could hear was the sound of my own heartbeat. "Classmate Jiang Yao, please come to the stage to receive your award." Lin Juyang suddenly stood up and gave me a hard push. "Go." I stood up and walked toward the stage. The moment the spotlight hit me, I saw the eyes of everyone in the audience. Some were applauding, some were astonished, and some were whispering among themselves. I walked to the center of the stage and took the heavy trophy. Engraved on the base of the trophy was a line: National College Student Speech Competition Champion. Below, there is a small line of text: Jiang Yao. The host handed me the microphone. "Classmate Jiang Yao, is there anything you'd like to say?" I took the microphone and looked at the audience below. "I want to say, thank you. Thank the person who kicked me off the debate team," I said. "If it weren't for him, I wouldn't be standing here." The audience was silent for a second, then burst into even louder applause. I saw Lin Juyang clapping desperately in the audience, his eyes red. I bowed and stepped off the stage. The trophy in my hands was heavy, but warm as I walked out of the hall. Xu Mingyuan caught up with me. "Jiang Yao," he extended his hand. "Congratulations." "Thank you." I shook hands with him. "That line you said on stage just now was too harsh," he said with a smile. "The person who kicked you out must be regretting it now." "Maybe," I said, "maybe, because he still doesn't know about this." Xu Mingyuan was taken aback, then smiled. "Then you must make sure to show him this trophy properly." "I will," I said. "When I get back." I didn't go straight back to the hotel. Instead, I went to a cafe on campus. Lin Juyang followed behind me, not saying a word the entire way. It wasn't until we sat down in a corner that he finally spoke. "Jiang Yao, that line you said on stage just now, what's wrong? You did that on purpose." I didn't deny it. "You want everyone to know that you only joined this competition after being kicked off the debate team. Yes, you want to make Lu Chuan regret it. Yes." He looked at me and was silent for a few seconds. "You win," he said. "You really win." I picked up my coffee and took a sip. It was bitter, but I liked it. "Juyang, do you know how I've been getting through these past 3 months?" I suddenly asked. He shook his head. "I wake up at 5 every morning to write my speech," I said. "After finishing it, I practice in front of the mirror until I'm satisfied, then I go to class, to the library, and do everything I'm supposed to do. When I get back to the dorm at night, I revise the draft again before going to sleep." "You never told me." "Because I Didn't want you to worry, I said. More importantly, I didn't want anyone to know what I was preparing for. Why? Because if Lu Chuan finds out, he will definitely stop me. Lin Zhouyang's expression changed. Do you think he would? He won't allow me to slip out of his control, I said. What he needs is someone who can be sacrificed at any moment, not someone who can stand on a national stage. The cafe was quiet, with only a few tables of people murmuring softly. Jiang Yao, I used to think you were the kind of person who was really easy to push around, Lin Zhouyang said. Now I realize I was wrong. Wrong about what? You're not someone to be messed with, he said. You're just waiting for the perfect moment. I smiled and said nothing. My phone rang. I glanced at the screen. It's an unfamiliar number. After hesitating for a few seconds, I still answered. Hello, may I ask if this is Jiang Yao? The other party was a female. I'm a reporter from the Youth Daily. It's me. We want to interview you, she said, about you winning the National Speech Finals Championship. An interview? Yes, she said. We've learned that you only entered this competition after being kicked off the school debate team. This story has great news value, and we want to do an in-depth report. I glanced at Lin Zhouyang, who looked surprised. Sure, I said. Shall we set a time? Let's do it now, I said. I'm still at Peking University. Okay, we'll wait for you at the entrance of the Centennial Memorial Hall. I hung up the phone and stood up. A reporter wants to interview me. What? Lin Zhouyang was stunned. A reporter already? That fast? National champion? I said. Let's go. We returned to the entrance of the Centennial Memorial Hall, and sure enough, a woman carrying a camera was waiting for me. Classmate Jiang Yao. She approached. I'm Wang Ling, a reporter from the Youth Daily. Hello, would like to do a short interview. Is that okay? Sure, she turned on the voice recorder. First of all, congratulations on winning the National Speech Finals, she said. Can you tell us how you decided to participate in this competition? 3 months ago, I was kicked off the school debate team, I said. The reason was that someone else needed that spot more than I did. So you decided to enter the speech contest to prove yourself? Sort of, I said. But more importantly, I wanted to know if you can still make it when everyone thinks you can't. The reporter's expression softened slightly. Does your school know that you were kicked off the debate team? They do, I said, but I haven't made it public. Why not? Because I don't want to use this to gain sympathy. I said, I want to prove myself through my abilities. The reporter nodded. One last question. Is there anything you want to say to the person who kicked you off the debate team? I thought for a moment. Yes, I said, I want to say, thank you. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be standing here. The reporter paused for a moment, then smiled. You said that at the award ceremony too. Yes, I said, because that's how I truly feel. After the interview, the reporter shook my hand. I look forward to your future, she said. You are a very special girl. Thank you. Lin Zhouyang remained silent the entire time as we left. It wasn't until we walked out of the school gate that he finally spoke. Jiang Yao, did you have this all planned out from the start? What do you mean, interview, report, championship? He said. Did you already know it would come to this? I stopped walking and looked at him. Zhouyang, what makes you think I had the right to plan ahead? He froze. I'm just a third debater who got kicked off the debate team. I said, I don't know if I can win. All I can do is prepare everything and give it my all. He looked at me and nodded. You did it, he said. Not yet, I said. This is just the beginning. The beginning. Yes, I looked into the distance. The real beginning will be after we return to school. I thought of Lu Chuan's face. I remembered the words he said. You have good grades. You don't need these. Don't need them. Then I'll show him what it really means to not need them. The day I returned to Nancheng University, the sky was a clear blue. The parasol trees at the school gate have already turned yellow, and the autumn wind blows in, carrying a slight chill. I drag my suitcase through the school gate, while Lin Zhouyang carries my backpack beside me. How do you plan to announce this? He asks. I won't announce it, I say. Not announce it. He was stunned. You've already won the national championship, and you're not going to announce it. What's the point of announcing it? I said, waiting for people to congratulate me. Then what do you want to do? Wait for Lu Chuan to find out on his own? He looked at me, a puzzled expression on his face. He'll find out, I said. The reporter's article will be out next week. By then, the whole school will know. Lin Jiang nodded. You're really quite cunning. It's not called being insidious, I said, it's called letting him walk right into it. As we reached the dormitory building, we ran into Zhao Wenjie head-on. He was a member of the debate team and the second speaker for this inter-school competition, Jiang Yao. He was visibly taken aback when he saw me. You're back? Yeah, you went to Beijing. His expression was somewhat complicated. I heard you went to participate in some competition, the national speech finals, I said. His eyes widened instantly. National speech finals? Yeah, how did it go? Not bad, I said. I won the championship. Zhao Wenjie's mouth opened and couldn't close. Champion? Yeah. He stood there, unable to speak for a long time. I patted him on the shoulder and walked past him. Behind me, Lin Zhouyang's voice came. How was it? Exciting. Right. I didn't look back and kept walking toward the dormitory. I know that from today. Everything has changed. Things have developed faster than I expected. The next day, the report from the Youth Daily came out. The headline was, after being kicked out of the debate team, she won the National Speech Championship. The report detailed how I was kicked out of the debate team, and how I spent 3 months preparing for the competition, ultimately standing on the national stage. The article also included my words at the award ceremony. I want to say, thank you to the person who kicked me out of the debate team. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't be standing here. Once the report came out, the school was in an uproar. Did you see that report? Jiang Yao won the national championship. Wasn't she kicked off the debate team? How can she still participate in this kind of competition? I heard she signed up on her own. It has nothing to do with the school. Does Lu Chuan know about this? The murmurs spread across the entire campus. I was in the dormitory, looking at various messages on my phone, my expression calm. Lin Jiang pushed the door open and came in. Do you know what's going on out there right now? I do. Lu Chuan is about to go crazy, he said. He was called in for a talk by the counselor this morning. What about him kicking you out of the debate team, he said. The counselor said he went too far with this. I picked up my cup and took a sip of water. What did he say? He didn't say anything, Lin Jiang said, but I heard Bai Yu is also making a fuss now. About what? About the recommendation quota, he said. We won the inter-school competition, so logically Bai Yu's recommendation should have been secure, but now that this thing with you has come up, a lot of people are questioning her. I put down the cup. Question what? Question how she got her spot, he said. After the news about you being kicked off the debate team came out, people started digging up old scores. Everyone's discussing how Bai Yu got that lead debater position in the first place. I thought for a moment, it's their own business, I said. It has nothing to do with me. Really nothing to do with you. Really nothing to do with me. Lin Jiang looked at me and sighed. You're truly terrifying. I smiled and didn't respond. My phone rang again this time. It was a number I hadn't blocked. Counselor, Jiang Yao, come to the office for a moment. Okay. I hung up the phone and stood up. Did the counselor ask for you, Lin? Jiang asked. Yeah. Do you want me to go with you? No need, I said. I'll go by myself. The counselor's office is on the 3rd floor of the administration building. When I knocked and entered, I saw Lu Chuan was also there. He was sitting on the sofa, his expression very grim when he saw me come in. His eyes flickered for a moment, then he turned his head away. Jiang Yao, have a seat. The counselor pointed to the chair across from them. I sat down. I saw your report, the counselor said. National Speech Finals champion. Congratulations. Thank you, teacher. But, she paused, is it true what the report mentioned about you being kicked off the debate team? It's true. The counselor looked at Lu Chuan. Lu Chuan, do you have anything to say? Lu Chuan was silent for a few seconds. I admit, my actions at the time were indeed thoughtless, he said. But Bai Yu's situation was truly special. She needed that spot for the recommendation. So you could sacrifice Jiang Yao. The counselor interrupted him. Lu Chuan said nothing. Lu Chuan, you are the captain of the debate team, not Bai Yu's personal assistant. The advisor said, you have the right to decide who plays and who sits out, but you cannot use your authority for personal gain. I know I was wrong, Lu Chuan said, lowering his head. You know you were wrong, the advisor sneered. Do you realize this matter has already made it into the newspapers? Now the whole school knows about it. Where is the school? Supposed to save face. Lu Chuan's face flushed bright red. Jiang Yao. The counselor turned to me. Do you have any requests? No, I said. No, I said no. I looked at her. This matter is over. I got what I wanted, and he got what he deserved. Let's leave it at that. The counselor paused for a moment, then nodded. All right, she said. I'll follow up on this. Lu Chuan, you can go back now. Lu Chuan stood up and, when he reached the door, he stopped. Jiang Yao, he didn't turn around. I'm sorry, I didn't say anything. He pushed the door open and walked out. Only the advisor and I were left in the office. Jiang Yao, are you really not going to pursue this? She asked. What do you want to pursue? I said, have him expelled, or make him issue a public apology. At the very least, he should give you a formal apology. No need. I stood up. Teacher, when will my recommendation for admission be confirmed? The counselor looked at me and remained silent for a few seconds. It's been decided, she said. Kyoto University's Faculty of Law, with a guaranteed admission spot. My hand tightened slightly. Really, really, she handed me a document. This is the official acceptance letter. I took the document and looked at the early admission notice from Kyoto University's Faculty of Law. Name, Jiang Yao. I took a deep breath and put the document away. Thank you, teacher. You're welcome, she said. You deserve it. As I walked out of the administration building, the sunlight was just right. My phone rang. It was Lin Juyang. How is it? The recommendation quota is confirmed, I said. Peking University. There was a second of silence on the other end of the line, followed by a loud shout. That's great. I smiled and moved the phone a little farther away. Keep your voice down. No way. I'm too happy, he said. Jiang Yao, you're amazing. All right, I said. Treat me to dinner tonight. No problem. I hung up the phone and stood on the steps. The wind blew from the campus, carrying the scent of osmanthus flowers. I remembered the scene of walking into this school for the first time 3 years ago. Back then, I understood nothing and could do nothing. Now, I still understand nothing and can do nothing, but at least, I know what I want. I recall what Lu Chuan said. You have good grades. You don't need these. No need then. Does the recommendation quota for Kyoto University count as these? I smiled and continued walking forward. The celebration banquet was organized by the debate team. The inter-school league was won, and Baiyu secured a direct admission spot. Although Lu Chuan was disciplined, his contributions to the competition were still recognized. The venue was a restaurant near the school, with a large private room seating over 20 people. I didn't want to come in the first place, but Lin Jiang said, you have to come. If you don't, they'll think you're scared. So I came. When I walked into the private room wearing the simplest white shirt and jeans, everyone's eyes fell on me. Someone was whispering, why is she here? I don't know. It seems Lu Chuan invited her. What did Lu Chuan invite her for? Who knows? I found a seat in the corner, sat down, picked up the teacup on the table, and took a sip. Baiyu sat next to the host, wearing a white dress with meticulously applied makeup. When she saw me, the smile on her face froze for a moment. Sister Jiang Yao, you're here. Yeah, why didn't you say something in advance? I could have saved you a good spot. No need. I said, this place is fine. Baiyu's smile was starting to falter. Just then, Zhao Wenjie walked over with a glass in hand. Jiang Yao, congratulations to you, he said, national champion. That's impressive. Thank you. I read that report about you. He lowered his voice. It was written pretty harshly. That was written by the journalist. It has nothing to do with me. Really, he chuckled. I feel like you did it on purpose. I didn't say anything. Just took a sip of my drink. Zhao Wenjie looked at me, his expression somewhat complicated. Actually, back when you were kicked off the debate team, I already felt something was off, he said, but Lu Chuan was the captain, and he had the final say, so I didn't feel it was my place to say much. What's the use of saying all this now? I said, no use. He said, I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I looked at him, somewhat surprised. Why are you apologizing to me? Because I didn't speak up at the time, he said. If I had said something back then, maybe Lu Chuan wouldn't have gone that far. I thought for a moment. You don't need to apologize to me, I said. This isn't your fault, but I feel really sorry. Then keep that apology for yourself, I said. Next time something like this happens, just step forward. He nodded and walked away. Halfway through the celebration banquet, Bai stood up. Everyone, I have something to announce. Her voice was sweet. I've secured a direct admission spot to the law school of Kyoto University. A burst of applause and cheers erupted in the private room. Congratulations, Bai, that's amazing. As expected of our debate team's main force, a smug smile hung on Bai's face. She looked at me, a hint of provocation in her eyes. Sister Jiang Yao, you didn't get the recommendation spot, did you? She asked deliberately. I remember your grades were also very good, so why didn't you get it? The private room fell silent for a moment. Everyone was looking at me. I put down my glass and stood up. Are you done? I asked. Bai was taken aback for a moment. I was just asking. Then let me tell you, I said. I got the recommendation spot. The private room fell silent again. Beijing University Law School, I said. Same as your school. Bai's expression changed. Impossible. She said, you didn't participate in the debate team's competition. How could you possibly get a direct admission spot? Who said a direct admission spot has to come through the debate team? I said. The national speech competition champion also qualifies for direct admission. The private room erupted into chaos. National speech finals. Jiang Yao won the championship. Is what that report said true? She really won the national championship. Bai's face grew increasingly grim. Lu Chuan sat to the side, silent. Bai, I looked at her. You just asked me if I got the recommendation spot. Now I'm telling you, I did. Any other questions? She opened her mouth but couldn't speak. Also, I said, you just said you were the main force of the debate team. Let me ask you, how did you get that lead debater position? The private room fell completely silent. Bai's face flushed bright red. I earned it through my own ability. Ability? I chuckled. You were eliminated in the first round of the selection. Where is your ability? That's because I wasn't feeling well that day. Not feeling well, I said. Then who wrote those attack and defense drafts you used when you went on stage? Bai didn't say a word. I wrote them, I said. I stayed up 3 nights in a row to write those attack and defense drafts, and you took them and used them. After using them, you still wanted to kick me out of the debate team. Bai, you call that ability? People in the private room began to whisper. Bai's eyes reddened. Jiang Yao, don't go too far, she shouted. Me, go too far. I looked at her. Bai, you stole my manuscript, took my place, and now you're saying I'm going too far. I didn't steal it. Lu Chuan told me to use it. Lu Chuan told you to use it, so you used it. I said, if Lu Chuan told you to die, would you do that too? Someone in the private room couldn't help but laugh. Bai's face flushed bright red, and tears fell. Lu Chuan finally spoke. Jiang Yao, that's enough, he said. You've already won. Why bother making things difficult for her? I turned to look at him. Making things difficult for her, I said. Lu Chuan. From start to finish, who has been making things difficult for whom? He didn't say a word. 3 months ago, you kicked me out of the debate team, saying it was for Bai's good. I said, now Bai has secured the recommendation spot, and you've been disciplined. Do you think this is a good thing? Lu Chuan's face turned extremely grim. Jiang Yao, I know I was wrong, he said, but do you really have to go this far, going for the kill? I laughed. Lu Chuan, I just spoke a few truths. And you think I'm going for the kill? He said nothing. Then let me tell you what going for the kill really means. I said, you teamed up with Bai to badmouth me behind my back, getting the debate team to ostracize me. You stole my draft and gave it to Bai so she could take the credit. You used your authority as team leader to give her the spot that should have been mine. That's what going for the kill really means. The private room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop, but I didn't hold it against you. I said, I went to Beijing, won the national championship, and secured a direct admission spot. I didn't cause you trouble, didn't report you to the counselor, and didn't name you in the newspaper, and now you're accusing me of being ruthless. I looked at him. Lu Chuan, do you even deserve to say that? He opened his mouth but couldn't utter a word. I picked up the glass on the table and downed it in one gulp. To this drink, I toast everyone here, I said, wishing you all a bright future. Then, I set down the glass. turned around, and walked out of the private room behind me. There was a deathly silence. By the time I stepped out of the restaurant, the sky had already darkened. The autumn night breeze was a bit chilly, so I wrapped my coat tighter around myself. Lin Jiang chased after me. "Jiang Yao," he called out. "Wait." I stopped and turned to look at him. He ran up to me, panting heavily. "What you said just now was so satisfying," he said. "Satisfying?" I said. "I just said what needed to be said. Aren't you afraid they'll hold a grudge against you?" "Let them hold a grudge if they want," I said. "Anyway, I'm leaving this school soon." He was taken aback. "You're leaving? The recommendation quota has been confirmed. I'll be heading to Jing University next semester," I said. "What happens here has nothing to do with me anymore." He looked at me, silent for a few seconds. "What about me?" he asked. "What about you? If you leave, what am I supposed to do?" I looked at him and couldn't help but laugh. "Are you a 3-year-old?" I said. "You can't survive without me." "That's not what I meant," he said. "I just think." "Think what?" He scratched his head and said nothing. "Juyang," I said, "thank you for being with me these past 3 months." He looked at me, his eyes slightly red. "You don't need to thank me," he said. "I didn't do anything." "You did," I said. "You stood by me when I was at my lowest. You helped me gather information. You accompanied me to Beijing." I remember all of this. I lowered my head and fell silent. "We'll meet again in the future," I said. "Beijing University isn't on Mars." He looked up and smiled. "That's right," he said. "I'll come find you in Beijing in the future. Welcome." We stood at the entrance of the restaurant, looking at the night sky. There were few stars, but they were bright. "Jiang Yao," he suddenly said. Will you still think of Lu Chuan in the future?" I thought for a moment. "No," I said, "he's not worth it." He nodded and said nothing more. When I got back to the dormitory, I turned on my computer. There was a new email sender. Lu Chuan, subject, "I'm sorry." I hesitated for a few seconds, but still opened it. The email was long, detailing his emotional journey over the past 3 months. He said he knew he was wrong, that he shouldn't have sacrificed me for his first love, that he regretted it, and that he hoped I could forgive him. The last sentence was, "Jiang Yao, you are the most remarkable person I have ever known. I have never regretted meeting you, but I regret hurting you." I stared at that email for a long time in silence. Then, I pressed the delete key. After deleting it, I shut down the computer and lay down on the bed. The ceiling is still white, but my heart no longer aches, not because I have forgiven him, but because he no longer matters. The phone rang. I glanced at the screen. Xu Mingyuan. "Jiang Yao, I heard you got recommended for admission to Jing University." His voice carried a hint of amusement. "Yeah, then we'll be classmates from now on," he said. "Welcome." "Thanks. By the way, when are you coming to register?" "Next semester. I'll treat you to a meal then," he said. "Consider it a welcome dinner." "Okay." After hanging up the phone, I closed my eyes. Many images flashed through my mind. Lu Chuan's face, Bai Yu's face, Lin Zhouyang's face, Xu Mingyuan's face, and that trophy, and that early admission notice. All of it is in the past now. Starting tomorrow, I'll go to a new school, meet new people, and start a new life. As for Lu Chuan and Bai Yu, they have nothing to do with me anymore. I turned over, ready to sleep. My phone rang again. I thought it was another message from someone, so I picked it up to check. It turned out to be a news notification. National Speech Finals champion Jiang Yao allegedly bullied by school team. School launches investigation. I tapped to take a look. The report detailed my expulsion from the debate team and also mentioned Bai Yu and Lu Chuan. The article concluded by stating that the school had intervened in the investigation and would take action on the matter. After reading it, I turned off my phone. Whatever, these things have nothing to do with me anymore. As for what happened later, I only heard about it from Lin Zhouyang. He said Lu Chuan had his recommendation qualification revoked. He said Bai Yu's spot was also withdrawn. He said the school held a school-wide assembly specifically to address this matter. He also said that Lu Chuan publicly apologized in front of the entire school at the assembly. He said he was sorry to you, Lin Zhouyang said. He said he did the stupidest thing. After hearing all this, I had no reaction. And then, I asked, and then there was no and then, he said, he dropped out. Dropped out, yeah. Lin Zhouyang said, he said he couldn't face staying at this school anymore. I was silent for a moment. And what about Bai Yu? She's still here, he said, but her reputation is ruined. Now, wherever she goes, people point fingers behind her back. I nodded and said nothing more. Some things, if done wrong, come with consequences. This is not something I can decide. The weather was fine on the day I reported to Kyoto University. Lin Jiang walked me to the school gate. We're here, he said. Go on in. I looked at the school gate in front of me and took a deep breath. Thank you, Juyang, I said, for taking care of me these past 3 years. He smiled. We'll meet again, he said. When that happens, you'll treat me to a meal. Okay. I dragged my suitcase through the school gate. Behind me was Lin Zhouyang's gaze. I didn't look back because I knew this wasn't the end. It was the beginning, a new school, a new life, a new everything. I lifted my head and looked at the campus before me. The sunlight was just right, the breeze gentle, everything was perfect. It wasn't until the 3rd month after enrollment that I saw Lu Chuan for the first time, not at school, but on a casual occasion that day. I went to a cafe to write my thesis. Just as I found a seat and sat down, I saw someone sitting at the table across from me. It was Lu Chuan. He saw me too. We looked at each other for a few seconds. Long time no see, he said. Yeah, I nodded. Are you okay? He asked. I'm fine, I said. And you? Not bad, he smiled. I transferred schools. I'm at the school next door now. I heard. He was silent for a moment. Jiang Yao, about that matter, he began. Don't say it, I interrupted him. It's already in the past. He looked at me and nodded. You're right, he said. It's in the past. We fell silent again for a while. Then I'll be going now. He stood up. Okay. He stopped at the door. Jiang Yao, congratulations, he said. You did it. I didn't say a word. He pushed the door open and went out. I watched his figure disappear beyond the door, then lowered my head and continued writing my thesis. Some things, once they're over, they're over. Some people, once missed, are missed forever. I have no regrets because I already have a better future. Time at Kyodai passed quickly. I joined the school's debate club and became a key debater. Xu Mingyuan is the club president, and Lin Zhouyang, who got into the neighboring school, occasionally comes to see me. My life is fulfilling and busy, but I no longer need to rely on anyone like I used to. I have my own circle of friends, my own career, and my own future. One day, while I was reading in the library, my phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. Hello, are you Jiang Yao? The voice on the other end was a young woman. I'm a reporter from College Student magazine. Yes, that's me. Would like to interview you, she said, about your journey from being kicked off the debate team to winning the national championship. I thought for a moment. Okay, I said. You set the time. The interview was arranged at the school cafe. The journalist was a very young woman, looking only a few years older than me. Senior Jiang Yao, may I call you Senior? She asked with a smile. Okay, Senior. I want to ask you, how did you feel when you were kicked out of the debate team back then? I thought for a moment. Very calm, I said. Calm, yes, I said, because I know that's not my end. She nodded and continued asking, have you ever thought about revenge? Revenge, I laughed. Why would I want revenge? Because they hurt you, they hurt me. So I have to take revenge, I said. Then my life would be too boring. She was stunned for a moment, then laughed. Senior, you're really special. Not special, I said. I've just figured things out. Figured what out? Figured out what truly matters. She looked at me, waiting for me to continue. The most important thing isn't to surpass others, I said, it's to become a better version of yourself. After the interview, the reporter shook my hand. Thank you, Senior, she said. Your story will surely inspire many people. I hope so. I watched her retreating figure, then continued drinking my coffee. Sunlight streamed in through the window, shining on my face, warm and cozy, very comfortable. Next, let's listen to the next story. My sister and I both had talent in dance, but our family could only afford to send one of us to the art exam intensive training camp. My childhood sweetheart said he didn't want a long-distance relationship, so I gave up the opportunity to my sister and stayed behind for the college entrance exams. After that, we dated, got married, and lived in harmony without a shred of doubt. My sister chose to go abroad and never returned home. On his deathbed, my childhood sweetheart told me that the one he had always loved was actually my sister. His tone was accusatory. saying that the reason my sister refused to come back was all because of me. A month later, my sister was critically ill, and I went to visit her. Her last words were also, "Sister, in the next life, don't take Jiangyu away from me." Okay, so it turned out that all their lives, they had resented me, reborn into a new life. I returned to the day my mother made my sister and me draw lots. I gripped the slip of paper in my hand. This time, I would no longer give up on my own life. The result of the draw came out, and my sister sighed with relief. She tugged on my arm, her voice sweet. "Great. Sister, you're more diligent than I am. If you go to the training camp, you'll definitely get into a good school." In my past life, she had said the same thing. My sister had loved dancing since she was little, and every time she won an award, she smiled like a little sun. Back then, I thought she was genuinely happy for me, and I even felt a bit guilty, which made me more determined to give up the opportunity. Later, I found out that at that time, she was in a sulk with Jiang Yu. She didn't want to go to the training camp, she didn't want to be separated from him, but Jiang Yu didn't want to hold back her future, so he rejected her confession. So he chose to work through me, to cut off my sister's hopes. My sister resented me for it, resented me for her whole life. My mother's gaze swept over, her tone probing. "Sure, the training camp is very grueling. You need to think it over carefully." I knew she was waiting for me to voluntarily give up, to voluntarily hand over this opportunity to my sister. I lowered my eyes and didn't respond. She had probably forgotten that Shen Yi and I were twins, that I was only born a few minutes before her. But from that day on, I would always be the older sister, and she would always be the younger sister. The words waiting ahead for me had always been the same. You're the older sister, you have to give in to your younger sister. So the one afraid of hardship had never been me. "Sure," my mother called me again. "Your grades in the cultural subjects are higher than Xiao Yi's. You don't have to take the art exam path, you can think it over again. Don't rush into a decision." I lifted my head and looked into her eyes. "Mom, does the result of this draw still count?" My mother seemed not to expect me to ask that, her brow furrowed. "You two sisters can discuss it among yourselves." Shenyi hugged my arm and shook it. "Good sister, I really don't want to go to the training camp. You know I can't handle that kind of hardship. Just think of it as helping me out, okay?" I looked at her smiling face. She really couldn't handle hardship. Since we were little, whenever something required endurance, my mother would shield her from it. If basic training was too tiring, she wouldn't do it. If stretching was too painful, she'd skip it. But her talent was genuinely good. So good that she could be praised by the teacher without trying too hard. My mother said that was fate, that Xiao Yi was born to enjoy a comfortable life. And what about me? Was I born to suffer? "Okay," I said. Shen Yi's eyes lit up. My mother's expression froze for a moment, then she sighed. "Since that's the case, sure, you go ahead." She quickly shot Shen Yi a glance, signaling her to follow her into the room. As I walked out the door, I heard my mother's lowered voice behind me, along with my younger sister's coaxing tones. When Teacher Su found out about my decision to attend the training camp, she was very happy. "Your mother agreed." I nodded. She patted me on the shoulder. "Shen Shu, train hard, don't waste your spark." My heart ached. In my past life, after I gave up on the art exam, Teacher Su had come to find me many times. She said she was willing to cover the costs of the training camp for me, that with my skills, I could definitely get into a good school. But I was single-mindedly set on giving up, so eventually, she stopped coming. Later, when I got married, I sent her an invitation. She didn't come, only sent someone with 3 words, "What a pity." At the time, I didn't think much of it, but as the days passed, those 3 words grew heavier, until every time I remembered them, they ached intensely. "Thank you, Teacher Su." I bowed deeply and sincerely. Teacher Su waved her hand, smiling as she urged me to change clothes and practice dancing. After I finished practicing, I was drenched in sweat. As I wiped my face with a towel, I caught a glimpse of someone standing at the door. Out of the corner of my eye, Jiangyu. Seeing him so young, I was momentarily dazed. In my past life, on his deathbed, he had been emaciated, but his eyes were frighteningly bright. He said that if it weren't for me, he wouldn't have been separated from Shen Yi, and that Shen Yi's refusal to return home was all because of me. He used his last bit of strength to say those words before closing his eyes. I had even thought it was the illness making him delirious until Shunyi was critically ill, and I heard with my own ears those words, "Sister, in the next life, don't take Jiangyu away from me." I only realized then. I was the sacrificial pawn in their melodrama. Step by step, I had walked myself into a cage, foolishly believing it was happiness. Jiangyu leaned against the corridor wall. The moment he saw me emerge, his brow furrowed, a flicker of disgust flashing in his eyes. He hated the sweat smell on me after dance practice, hated that I wasn't as delicate and pretty as my younger sister. That was why he never came to the dance studio to find me, and I just pretended not to notice. Back in our first year together, he was especially cold to me. I spent all my time revolving around him, desperately trying to be a qualified girlfriend, but no matter what I did, he was never satisfied. Back then, I thought it was because I wasn't good enough, but now I understand, it was because I wasn't Shunyi from beginning to end. The one he wanted was never me. "Shunshu," he called out to stop me. I didn't turn around. "Did you steal Xiao Yi's training opportunity?" His voice carried the presumption of an interrogation. I looked back. "Didn't she tell you? We decided by drawing lots." Jiang Yu's expression froze for a moment. "Or," I said slowly, "do you think I tampered with the draw?" "That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean?" "You should know, Xiao Yi loves dancing." That thorn in my heart twitched again. Just because she loves it, I have to give it up for her. What's the big deal if you let her have it? His tone grew impatient. "I told you, I don't like long-distance relationships. Besides, Xiao Yi's grades aren't as good as yours. If she doesn't take the art exam, she can't get into a good school, and what does that have to do with me?" Jiang Yu's face darkened. "Shunshu, why are you so vicious? Do you have to ruin Xiao Yi to be happy?" I turned and walked away. His roar followed me from behind, but I ignored it. In this life, I will never look back. Sitting back in the senior high school classroom, the psychological pressure was heavier than I had imagined. Those knowledge points were too distant for me. Decades of blank space made my scalp tingle every time I opened a textbook. It took me several days to barely memorize the math formulas again. My efficiency was pitifully low. Shunyi and I weren't in the same class. I deliberately kept my distance, no longer walking to and from school together. She came looking for me in the classroom twice, but I brushed her off with the excuse of studying. She didn't push it. Each time, she just sweetly said, "Keep it up, big sister," and turned away. One evening, I left self-study late. The hallway was nearly empty. As I turned a corner, I stopped in my tracks. Shunyi was leaning against the wall, a shy smile on her face. Jiangyu had one hand braced against the wall beside her. The two of them were so close they were almost pressed together. She bit her lip, smiling. Jiangyu looked down at her, his expression tender. Shunyi spotted me first. She gently pushed against Jiangyu's chest. They silently separated a little, both looking a bit awkward. Jiangyu took half a step back, the smile still lingering on his face, but when he saw it was me, that smile quickly faded. "Sister," Shunyi said naturally, "we saw you've been studying hard the past couple of days, so we didn't want to bother you. We're leaving first." "Don't be mad," Jiangyu said coldly. "If she gets mad over something this small, she's just being dramatic." I looked at them and thought about how stupid I was in my past life, something so obvious, and I never even noticed. "I'm preparing for the art exam. My schedule is different from yours. From now on, don't wait for me," I said. "You two can go on your own." A flicker of unease crossed Shunyi's face, but she quickly adjusted it. She pouted. "Sister isn't mad, is she?" "No, leave her alone," Jiangyu said, pulling her along. "Let her do whatever she wants." With that, he dragged Shunyi away. Shunyi glanced back at me, as if she wanted to say something, but in the end, she just hurried to catch up with him. On the weekend, my mom still wasn't home. I had been studying all morning before I opened the door and walked out to the living room. Then I stopped in my tracks on the sofa. Shunyi was curled up in Jiangyu's arms. Her arms were wrapped around his neck, and she was tilting her head up slightly to kiss the corner of his mouth. Jiangyu's expression was doting and indulgent, but when his gaze met mine, his pupils shrank sharply, almost by reflex. He shoved Shunyi away. She stumbled from the push. When she turned and saw me, the blush on her face hadn't even faded. But her expression had already shifted to panic. "Sister, why didn't you make any noise when you were home?" "I've been here the whole time," I said. "You two just didn't notice." Shinyi forced a smile. "Jiangyu was helping me with some problems. Do you want to listen too, sister?" I glanced at Jiangyu. He didn't say anything. Jiangyu had always been a top student, from elementary school to high school. He was always near the top of his grade in my past life. I had pestered him to tutor me too. He was always impatient, frowning after just a couple of explanations. I thought that was just his personality, that he was like that with everyone. I didn't feel wronged, I just blamed myself for being too stupid. It turned out he simply had no patience for me. "No need," I said, "but academic classes are really important too," Shinyi said with a smile. "Sister, your foundation isn't that great to begin with. If your academics become a weak point, that's none of your concern." I cut her off. Shinyi's expression froze for a moment, and Jiangyu said coldly, "You're not exactly sharp to begin with. You should put more effort into your academics. Don't waste money if you pass the art exam but fail the cultural one. You're not in a position to remind me." I turned around and went back to my room, closing the door behind me. There were a few seconds of silence outside, and then Jiangyu's lowered voice came through. "Leave her alone. If she won't listen, forget it." The day of the intensive training departure was a Saturday. No one came to see me off. Just as I was about to board the bus, someone ran over from a distance. It was Jiangyu. He stopped in front of me and stared at me for a long time. "I had a dream." I was taken aback. "Did you have a dream too?" His gaze locked onto me. "Otherwise, why have you changed so much toward me lately?" "What dream?" My heart skipped a beat. But I asked calmly. His expression relaxed a little, and a faint, almost imperceptible smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "In the dream, we were married. We lived well, grew old together." I almost laughed out loud. Of course he thought it was beautiful. In that marriage, he was the one being taken care of, thriving outside, coming home to someone serving him tea and water. He lived comfortably. So naturally, he thought growing old together was wonderful, but to me, it was an insult. "It's just a dream," I said, looking away. Only a fool would take it seriously. He tried to grab me, but I stepped back. "Stay away from me." He froze in place. After I got on the bus, I noticed Jiangyu standing there, watching me with a look of loss and longing. The training was tougher than I'd imagined. We got up at 6 every morning and ran non-stop from dawn to dusk. By the time I returned to the dorm, my bones felt like they were falling apart. The other girls occasionally complained about the exhaustion, but I never uttered a single word from start to finish. Teacher Sue said I had talent, but talent didn't mean much here. Everyone had it. What mattered was who could endure more. I was the first to arrive at the dance studio every morning and the last to leave every night. The bruises on my body never faded. Before the old ones healed, new ones piled on top. All I knew was that fate had given me a second chance, and I couldn't waste it. Here, I made new friends. Growing up, Shinyi and Jiangyu always said I was dull and unlikable. My mother also said I was clumsy with words and easily offended people. In my past life, I had no friends either. I always thought it was my problem, that I was bad at talking and didn't know how to socialize, but that wasn't it. In a different environment with different people, I could be accepted too. This feeling was wonderful, but my biggest problem was still my academics. I brought a whole box of textbooks, planning to review during breaks, but after training each day, I was so exhausted I felt like a dog. I'd lie down and fall asleep before I could even dream, and then it was morning again. I was starting to panic. No matter how high my art exam score was, it would be useless if I didn't pass the cultural exam. When my friend found out, she patted her chest and said she'd handle it, recommending a tutor for me. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop near the training camp. When I arrived, he was already sitting there, looking down at his phone. There were 2 cups of coffee on the table. Hearing my footsteps, he looked up. He had a clean, comfortable face. "Shunshu." He stood up. "Teacher Ji." "Just call me Ji-zun," he said quickly, waving his hand. His ears seemed to turn a little red. "Teacher makes me sound old." I sat down, and he pushed one of the coffee cups toward me. "I didn't know what you liked, so I ordered the house special." During our first lesson, He first asked about my foundation and goals, then pulled out a set of test questions he had prepared himself for me to do. I struggled a lot. Many of the questions I had to guess on, and some I couldn't even understand the wording. After I finished, I felt embarrassed myself, but Ji-sun looked it over seriously, marking it with his pen. Your foundation isn't actually that bad, your English is decent, and your reading comprehension in Chinese is good. If you study systematically, passing the cultural exam won't be a problem. After that, Ji-sun came 3 times a week. He was very patient when explaining problems and never showed any sign of impatience. After finishing an explanation, he'd always ask, "Did I explain it clearly?" instead of frowning and saying, "Do you understand or not?" like Jiangyu did as expected. Spending money to hire a teacher was the way to go. During the National Day holiday, on the high-speed train home, I sent Ji-sun a message saying we'd have to skip a session this week. He replied with a "got it" and a cat waving emoji. I stared at that emoji for a few seconds before putting my phone away. I ran into Shenyi downstairs. She had lost some weight. When she saw me, she forced a smile. Looking a bit strained, we went home together. Just as we were about to enter, she suddenly asked, "Sister, do you like Jiangyu?" "No," I said, frowning. Shenyi pursed her lips, as if she didn't quite believe it. "Are you serious? I have no reason to lie to you. Then don't you dare regret this." She seemed to let out a breath of relief as I turned sideways to find my keys. I spotted Jiangyu in the stairwell. He'd appeared behind me at some point, lifting his head, his gaze locking onto mine. I didn't think much of it. I opened the door and went inside. That afternoon, when I went out to buy groceries, Jiangyu came over and grabbed my wrist firmly. He frowned, his eyes burning as he stared at me. "You said you don't like me." His tone carried a hint of disbelief. I tried to pull my hand back, but I couldn't free it. "You're hurting me." He didn't let go. "Shinshu, how could you not like me? How can you not like me?" It didn't sound like an accusation. It was more like he was trying to convince himself. His gaze almost panicked. I couldn't understand what he was trying to do. In my past life, he'd resented my pestering. Every time we had a falling out, I was always the one to lower my head first. Now that I didn't like him anymore, he was acting like this. Who was he putting on a show for? Is it that strange that I don't like you? There are so many people in this world. I don't have to like you. Xiao Yi and I aren't together. He panicked. That time you saw us at home, it wasn't what you thought. She suddenly leaned in, and I didn't dodge in time. What does that have to do with me? I yanked myself free with force, turned around, and walked away. He called after me from behind, his voice trembling slightly. I ignored him. That afternoon, Mom had a look on her face like she wanted to say something but held back. She didn't speak, so I pretended not to notice. But at the dinner table, she still couldn't help bringing it up. "Shua, your little sister hasn't been in a good mood lately." I picked up a piece of spare rib with my chopsticks and didn't respond. Her monthly exam scores dropped quite a bit. Her teacher said she's always zoning out in class. Mom put down her chopsticks and sighed. "This child has so much on her mind, she won't tell me anything." "You're her older sister. You're close to her. Do you know what's wrong?" "I don't know." "Are you two having a falling out?" "No." "Then how is she?" Mom hesitated. "Shua, you're more mature than your sister. There are some things you need to give in on. She's still young." Young, that word. Again I put down my chopsticks. "Mom, Shenyi and I are twins. I'm only a few minutes older than her." Mom froze. "Since we were little, it's always been the same line. She's still young. She doesn't know any better." "But what about me? When she's in a bad mood, I have to comfort her. When her grades drop, I have to manage it. If she gets into a fight over a relationship, do I have to go tie the guy up and bring him back for her too?" Mom's face turned pale. "How can you say that? Mom didn't mean it that way." "Then what did you mean?" She didn't answer. I didn't press further. After a moment of silence, I stood up, gathered the dishes and chopsticks, and took them to the sink. From behind me came Mom's muffled voice. "Shua, are you blaming Mom?" I didn't say anything. The tap water rushed out with a loud gush, splashing over the back of my hand. It was a little cold. After a while, I finally spoke. "I just don't want to be the one who's mature anymore." I left early the next morning. I didn't want to stay home for even One more day. During the last 2 months of the training camp, time felt like it had been fast-forwarded. Every day was just dance practice, classes, eating, and sleeping, nothing else. Jiangyu would occasionally call me in the middle of the night, but I had no time to pay him any attention. By the time the provincial and school exams were over, I had lost nearly 10 pounds, but I didn't dare slack off for a second, because the cultural course review was entering its final sprint. Jizun organized the key points for each subject, printed them out into a thick stack, and shoved them into my hands. He said it was his exam prediction Bible. If I could understand it all, I'd get at least 20 more points. That impressive? I was half doubtful. Just give it a try, there's nothing to lose. He smiled openly. If you do well, you treat me to a meal. If you don't, you can't ask for a refund. Pretty sharp, aren't you? I'm a finance major. After all, in June, after finishing the last exam, I let out a long, slow breath. It was a breath I'd been holding in since my rebirth. Jizun appeared outside the exam hall. I was a little surprised. All done? He asked. All done. How do you feel? Not bad. He naturally took my stationery bag. Come on, let's celebrate. Celebrate what? Celebrate the fact that you finally don't have to see my face anymore. That really is worth celebrating. Shunshu, he said, putting on a straight face. Don't you feel any guilt in your heart? I couldn't help but laugh. This was a lightness I had never felt in my past life. The day the college entrance exam results came out, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. My art exam ranking, combined with my cultural course score, was more than enough to meet the admission cutoff for Beijing Dance Academy. When she learned I was planning to apply to Beijing Dance Academy, Mom was silent for a long time. That far away? Yeah, your little sister also submitted her applications. Her scores might only be enough for a local second-tier college. I thought she would say, if you had let your sister go to the training camp, she wouldn't have done so poorly on the exam. But she didn't. She was quiet for a few seconds, then just said, come back more often from now on, and I'll cook you something good. My nose suddenly stung a little, but it seemed like I didn't need that anymore now, so I just smiled. After the scores came out, our two families had a meal together. The Jiang family and the Shun family were old acquaintances. Jiangyu's mother and my mother were college classmates, and they would get together every holiday season. It had become a tradition over the years. I didn't want to see Jiangyu again. When ordering, Shenyi picked a few dishes first. Jiangyu immediately took the menu, flipped through a few pages, and rattled off a list of dish names, all of them my favorites. It was the same in my past life. Back then, I thought that was love. But him remembering my preferences didn't mean he loved me. He was just doing what a good husband was supposed to do, things he could just as easily do for someone else. Jiangyu's gaze kept falling on me from time to time. I felt uncomfortable under his stare. I kept my head down, focused on eating, and didn't say a single extra word. Shunyi's face grew worse and worse. After we got home, she locked herself in her room and didn't come out for an entire night. The next morning, Mom went to knock on the door. There was no response, and she started to get anxious. Shua, go and talk to your sister. How can she not eat? I was sitting on the couch looking at my phone, not even lifting my head. Not going. Mom's voice rose a bit. You're her older sister. She's throwing a tantrum, and you can't follow suit. She's still young. If you don't coax her, who will? I put down my phone and looked at her. I'm not going. Mom was silent for a long while before she spoke. Shua, you weren't like this before. Yeah, I said, but have you ever thought about whether that version of me was something I wanted? Then, without waiting for her response, I got up and went back to my room. When I came back out in the afternoon, Shinyi had already emerged. She was sitting on the living room couch, her eyes red. When she saw me, she stared straight at me. Didn't you say you don't like Jiangyu? I said it. I don't like him. I was a bit impatient. Then why does he keep staring at you? She stood up abruptly, her voice rising. You say you don't like him, so why are you deliberately leading him on? Have you ever considered that maybe he's just being a fool? I said coldly. Shinyi was at a loss for words. Shinyi, I looked into her eyes. Tell me, what exactly do I have to do so that you won't resent me? She didn't speak. Ever since we were kids, I've given in to whatever you wanted. What do you want now? Do you want me to die? Her eyes turned red. and her voice was very low. Can you just stay away from him from now on? Fine, I answered simply anyway. School was about to start, and I wouldn't have many chances to come back in the future. As I closed the door, I heard Shenyi crying in the living room. A few days after I submitted my college application, Jiangyu somehow found out what I'd chosen and called me from someone else's phone. Why didn't you discuss this with me? Are you crazy? Why did you apply so far away? We agreed to go south together. What kind of tantrum are you throwing? Who agreed with you? I said, my face calm. He almost shouted, Shenshu, what exactly do you mean? Say it clearly. Jiangyu, that was your plan, not mine. You never asked me if I agreed, you just assumed I'd follow you, but I'm not your accessory. There was only heavy breathing on the other end of the line. I hung up. My phone lit up again. He sent a long message. I didn't finish reading it. I deleted it directly and blocked him. In my past life, he applied to a university in the south, and I went with him. My phone rang again. Thinking it was Jiangyu, I frowned and picked it up, only to see a message from Ji Zun. I heard you got into the Beijing Dance Academy. Word travels fast. I saw your friends post on social media. Congratulations. Another message popped up. We'll be pretty close from now on. Just a few streets apart. Who's close with you? Don't be so cold. Classmate Shenshu. He sent a pitiful emoji. I'm at least half a mentor to you. Aren't I? Mentor? You got paid for that. Then how about I refund the money? No way. I stared at that message, and suddenly his face as he explained problems popped into my mind. He probably thought I was mad, because he sent another one. Just kidding. Don't mind me. Congratulations, Shenshu. You deserve this. Deserve this. I looked at those 3 words and closed my eyes. A deep sense of steadiness settled in my heart. Of course I did. Before leaving for the capital, I was cleaning my room when I came across an old photo album. Inside was a picture. Shenyi and I, probably around 4 or 5 years old, standing on a park lawn holding hands, smiling brightly. Back then, we looked so much alike. Later, we didn't anymore. Her smile grew sweeter and sweeter, while my expressions became fewer and fewer. She was becoming more and more like a little son, and I was like her shadow. I closed the photo album and placed it back in the box. No matter what, that was still me. On the day of departure, Mom wanted to see me off, but I refused in the end. She only said, call me when you get there. Shenyi wasn't home. I knew she was deliberately avoiding me, and I didn't care. I responded, dragging my suitcase out the door. When I reached the stairwell entrance, I couldn't help but look back. Mom was still standing at the door, looking much older than I remembered. Something stirred in my heart, but it quickly settled again. Just before boarding, my phone lit up with a message from Shenyi. Sis, have a smooth journey. I stared at it for a moment, replied with thanks, and then set her to do not disturb. During the journey, I just wanted peace. During my 4 years of college, I desperately grabbed for everything I had thrown away in my past life. At the freshman orientation performance, I danced a solo, a simple classical piece. After I finished, the audience was silent for 2 seconds before the applause erupted. Then a teacher recommended me for a competition, and I won my first college award. It wasn't a big deal, just a municipal prize, but the trophy felt heavy in my hands, and I couldn't bear to put it down. In my sophomore year, I was selected for the department's competition team, representing the school in the National College Dance Competition. To avoid disturbing my roommates, I moved out of the dorm. During that time, I trained relentlessly, from morning till night, only stopping for class and rehearsals. By the time I got back to my room, my legs were so weak I could barely turn over in bed. One night, at 2 in the morning, I was still in the rehearsal hall, staring at the mirror to perfect my moves. My phone buzzed. A message from Ji Zun. The light is still on. I froze for a moment, then walked to the window and looked down. He was standing under a street lamp outside the rehearsal hall, wearing a black down jacket, looking up and waving at me. I ran downstairs. What are you doing here in the middle of the night? Finished studying and passed by, saw the rehearsal hall light was on. Guessed it was you. He handed me a thermos, ginger tea. It'll warm you up. I unscrewed the lid and took a sip. The sharp, spicy ginger hit me, and my whole body warmed up. Are all Tsinghua students this free? Not free, he said with a smile. Just free for you. I almost choked on the ginger tea. He seemed to realize what he'd just said, and his ears turned red again. He quickly changed the subject. Is that spin of yours a bit unstable? I saw you practicing it several times. Were you spying on my practice? Passing by, really just passing by. After that, he became my offstage audience. Hardly missing any of my competitions in my junior year, I was selected by a famous dance troupe in the capital and began performing with them. At first, I danced in the ensemble, standing in the back row. Sometimes, I wouldn't even get a single close-up shot for the entire performance. But I wasn't in a hurry. I had endured all kinds of hardships. A little more time didn't matter. Gradually, I moved from the ensemble to supporting roles, and from supporting roles to lead in my senior year. The troupe arranged a solo performance for me at the National Center for the Performing Arts that night. My friend sat in the audience, frantically taking photos with her phone. After the show, she rushed backstage, hugged me, and jumped up and down, her eyes red, but all she said was, "That was pretty good. I couldn't let you down," I said with a smile. Backstage, the crowd gradually dispersed. I was in the dressing room removing my makeup when I heard a knock on the door. "Come in." It was Ji-sun, dressed in a suit, holding a bouquet of flowers. He looked like he had just rushed over from some formal event. His hair was tousled by the wind, and there was a thin sheen of sweat on his face. "Sorry I'm late. There was a thesis defense at school." He handed me the flowers, a bunch of sunflowers, golden and bright. "How did you know I like sunflowers?" I asked, a little surprised. "You mentioned it before," he said softly. "Had I? I didn't even remember." I took the flowers. The sunflowers had no fragrance, but they made my heart feel warm, as if I were holding a tiny piece of sunlight. "Thank you," I said quietly. After graduation, I stayed in Beijing. My career went more smoothly than I had imagined. I danced with the troupe for 2 years, then transitioned to being an independent dancer, starting to choreograph my own works. The first time I choreographed, I was so nervous I couldn't sleep for several nights. When the piece came out, the response was pretty good, and I won a modest award on the day my studio opened. Many people came to show their support. My friend had put up a banner with big gold letters that read, "Warm congratulations on Shinshu's studio opening." It was tacky, and I suspected she had written it herself. "What do you think? Impressive, right?" She stood with her hands on her hips, looking proud. "Very impressive, just a little ugly, Shinshu. Do you have any manners?" After the commotion died down and most people had left, I was standing at the door seeing off guests. When I turned around, I saw Ji-sun leaning against the wall. "Why haven't you left yet? Boss, are you hiring?" "What? I'll be your manager," he said, walking over, his expression unusually serious. "You can dance and choreograph, but you can't negotiate prices. Last time, that gig, they squeezed you down to 70% of the offer and you signed right away. Isn't passing up money like that just plain stupid? You're the stupid one." He stood his ground, unashamed. "See, you need someone to keep things in check for you. How about me? I can handle the books, no problem. Aren't you looking for a job? Got that much free time? Jobs aren't easy to find," he said with a grin, his eyes crinkling. "Just think of it as letting me crash with you for a while. Pay me whatever you think is fair. Just feed me, and we're good." I stared at that harmless, smiling face of his. Something felt off, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. "Suit yourself," I said, then turned and walked back. Behind me, his footsteps followed, light and bouncing. Then it settled. "Boss," he called out. I couldn't help but smile a little. My contact with my family grew sparser and sparser. Mom would call every now and then to check in, her tone still the same, circling around, hesitating, always holding back something she wanted to say but couldn't bring herself to speak outright. I knew she wanted me to come home more often, but I didn't want to go back. The memories that city held for me were too heavy, so heavy that every time I thought of them, I could barely breathe. After Dad passed away, Mom used me as her emotional outlet, dumping everything onto me, her grievances and hardships, her worries about my younger sister. All of it landed squarely on my shoulders, and I was only 10 years old back then. It's not that I didn't love her, it's just that I'd carried too much for too many years. Now that I'd finally set it down, I didn't want to pick it back up, so whatever she said, I listened, I'd throw in a word or two now and then, but I never volunteered more. News about my sister and Jiangyu would occasionally slip out of Mom's mouth. Xiaoyi and Jiangyu seem to be together now, she said cautiously. Oh, sure. You don't mind, do you? I don't mind. There was a silence on the other end of the line. Then you should start looking for someone too. You're not getting any younger, Mom. I've got rehearsal. I'll hang up now. I hung up and went back to whatever I was doing. It wasn't an act. I genuinely didn't care. Shenyi and Jiangyu ending up together was only a matter of time in my past life. It didn't happen because I was in the way. In this life, I wasn't blocking the path. So it came naturally. Good, everyone gets what they deserve. The only one I couldn't figure out was Jizun. That he liked me wasn't surprising, but I didn't understand why. Once, I just came out and asked, Zun, what exactly do you like about me? He thought about it for a moment. Back during your training camp, I'd pass by that road every day and kept running into you. I was pretty lost back then, but every time I saw you, I felt like you had this energy about you, like nothing could stop you. It was really captivating. Thinking back to those days, he smiled warmly. How do I put it? I just felt like you were bursting with life. I laughed after hearing that, so someone actually thought I was full of vitality. Seeing me laugh, he edged a little closer. So, how about it? Think about giving me a title. I tilted my head, dragging out my words on purpose. Depends on my mood. When Mom called again, I was in the studio's rehearsal hall, working on a new choreography. Sure. I'm not feeling too well. Can you come back for a bit? My hand tightened slightly. What's wrong? Have you seen a doctor? I did. Nothing serious. Just getting older. Everything's a little off. She paused. If you're busy, it's fine. I just miss you. This Saturday, I'll come back. I said, okay. Some things, you just have to face head on. At least once when I took a cab home, I saw several cars parked far off in the distance. The yard was set up with tables, chairs, and flowers. A balloon arch bore a few large characters. Jiangyu and Shunyi engagement banquet. I stood at the entrance, staring at those words, and laughed. So this trip was for this. Before long, Mom hurried out, her face a mix of embarrassment and guilt. Sure, you're back, Mom didn't mean to hide it from you. It's just that your sister said she hoped you'd come, that she wanted your blessing. Her voice grew softer. She said if she didn't do it this way, you wouldn't come back. I nodded. Shinyi really did know me well. The yard buzzed with chatter. Relatives were all staring at me. I ignored them and walked straight in. Shinyi stood in the middle of the yard, wearing a red dress, her face done up with delicate makeup. She looked more mature than before. When she saw me, her smile froze for a split second before blooming again. Sis, you're here, she said, her tone still sweet. Just like always, Jiangyu stood beside her in a black suit, looking presentable enough. The moment he saw me, it was as if something had struck him. He froze on the spot, his expression shifting again and again. I walked over and raised my wine glass toward Shinyi. Congratulations, I wish you both happiness. I said it too naturally, without a trace of acting. Instead, Shinyi seemed a bit uncomfortable. Jiangyu didn't respond. He stared at me, his Adam's apple bobbing as if he had something to say. I didn't linger. After offering my toast, I found a corner to sit down, quietly eating and playing on my phone, waiting for the time to pass so I could leave. Once the crowd grew, I slipped out. Just as I was about to head out, someone blocked my path. It was Jiangyu. I remember now, Shunshu, I remember. You hate me, don't you? His voice was hoarse, the rims of his eyes red, his face full of pain. I took a step back. Shouldn't I? He staggered, then rushed forward and grabbed my shoulders. His grip was so tight it felt like he was afraid I'd run away. His face was so close I could see the bloodshot veins in his eyes. No, that's not how it was. We were truly happy in our past life. Why are you doing this to me? My pupils contracted sharply, looking into those familiar eyes. I understood. He had come back too. That wasn't a dream. You lied to me. Why did you lie to me? His expression was agitated. You were the happy one, not me. I cut him off. You say we were happy in our past life. Then tell me, what did you say to me on your deathbed? His face went pale, drained of all color. You said you'd always loved Shinyi, and she only left because of me. You said if I hadn't been in the way, you two would have been together long ago. I enunciated each word. Jiangyu, do you think I was happy? No, that's not it. He finally let go of my shoulders, stumbling back 2 steps as if all his strength had been drained, barely managing to stand. That's not how it was. Listen, let me explain. His voice cracked with tears. Actually, I've always loved you. It's just that you were so cold to me, so Can you forgive me? Please, give me another chance. Let's start over. Just like our past life. He reached a hand out toward me. I looked at that hand, remembering how he'd held mine on his deathbed back then. He said he'd always loved Shinyi. Now he said he'd always loved me. How ironic, his love was so cheap. But I don't like you, I said. Looking at you makes me sick. What should we do about that? His hand froze mid-air. Jiangyu, you're pathetic. My voice was soft. Because you liked me. You deliberately humiliated and belittled me, called me stupid, said I was dull and boring, and ruined my future without a second thought. I looked into his eyes and smiled. Can you even call that love, Jiangyu? Why don't you just die? I raised my voice. His face turned completely ashen, his mouth opened, trying to say something, but nothing came out, until tears finally streamed down. What are you two doing? Shinyi's voice came from the courtyard. She had chased after us at some point, standing at the doorway. Her makeup still flawless, but her expression completely changed. Her eyes swept between us several times, finally settling on Jiangyu's face. Jiangyu didn't even look at her. He was still staring at me, as if bewitched. Please, give me one more chance. Jiangyu, Shinyi's voice suddenly rose, sharp and shrill. Have you lost your mind? This is our engagement party. What are you doing? Jiangyu's body jolted. Finally, he turned to look at her. I was all he managed. I watched them. One was breaking down and losing composure, the other was shocked and furious. I took a step back and turned to leave. Behind me came Shinyi's sharp accusations and Jiangyu's garbled explanations. The scene was pure chaos. I didn't look back. Only after I'd walked a distance did I notice my hands were trembling. It wasn't sadness, it was relief. I'd said it out loud. Disgusting, truly disgusting. I hailed a cab straight to the airport. The whole way there, my phone kept buzzing with their calls. I didn't answer a single one. When I arrived in the capital, it was Ji-Zun who came to pick me up. He was waiting at the exit, the same as always. The moment he saw me, he strode over and smoothly took my luggage. He smiled at first, then seemed to notice something, his smile fading slightly. What's wrong? What do you mean? You look like you're in a good mood. I went home for an engagement party and ran into a circus. Ji-Zun didn't press further. He never asked about things I didn't want to talk about. He walked naturally beside me, casually chatting about the studio's recent events. That sponsor called again last time. I renegotiated the price with them, got it raised by 20%, 20%. Well, at first they didn't agree, but once I sent over your rehearsal video, they agreed immediately. He smiled. Your skill is the best bargaining chip. The slight smugness still lingered at the corner of his mouth. You're putting so much effort into this, I said. Should I give you a raise? No need for a raise. He tilted his head to look at me, eyes crinkling. As long as you're in a good mood, that's enough. My footsteps paused, just for a split second, before I kept walking, but he noticed. Shu, he called my name, his tone light and earnest. Are you in a good mood today? I thought for a moment, looking at the undisguised anticipation in his clear eyes, and couldn't help but curve my lips. Pretty good. He froze for a second, then laughed, his eyes crinkling at the corners. That's good. He set down his luggage and gently hugged me. I buried my head against his shoulder. He smelled of sunshine, mixed with a faint scent of laundry detergent. Me too. Feeling my response, he held me a little tighter. What happened later? I heard from other people that day's engagement banquet was a complete disaster. Jiangyu ran out to chase after me in front of everyone, leaving Shinyi standing alone in the yard, with all the relatives watching. Jiangyu's parents were frantic, soothing the relatives while sending people to find him. In the end, they found him at a bar. He was already dead drunk, mumbling words no one could understand. Something about past life and I'm sorry. Some said he had been shocked. For a while after that, his condition kept deteriorating. He quit the job he had just found, stayed cooped up at home all day, refusing to go out or see anyone. His mother came to see me once. She sat in the chair across from me, eyes red, looking a decade older in an instant, and asked me to go see Jiangyu. I refused flatly. She left with reddened eyes, and I watched her figure disappear from sight, my heart utterly calm. That person who once occupied most of my life had finally become a complete outsider. Some time later, I received a message. It was from Xinyi, only 3 words, "I'm sorry." I stared at it for a long time. Was she truly sorry, or did she also want to let go? I didn't know. The word forgiveness was too heavy. I didn't want to pretend to be magnanimous, so I didn't reply and just continued with my own life. This time, thankfully, I still had a long life ahead of me.